Hey, welcome back. This is Mr. Hassan's Maths channel, and I'm going to go through this question here, which is question number 4 from the specimen paper of 2025 for the 0580 IGCSE Cambridge paper 4 extended syllabus. And this question here is a question which is new to the syllabus, something that was not there before, and it's dealing with the domain and range of functions. So it's under the topic of functions, and we're talking about domain and range of functions. Okay, so I'm going to go through a bit of an explanation here to make sure that things are clear. So here we have a function f of x is equal to 3x minus 5. And we're told that the domain of this function are the values minus 3, 0, and 2. Now the domain of a function are the numbers that are allowed to be inputted into the function. No other values apart from those values in the domain are allowed to be inputted into this function. There's only things that you are allowed to put inside the function. Sometimes it will say that the domain is all real numbers, all values of x. Okay, in which case you can put any number you want into there, right? You can put any number you want into there. Okay. So in this case, the only values that you are allowed to put into this function are these 3 values. So these represent the x values that go into the function. Now, if you want to find the range of the function, you've got to find what comes out of the function. Okay. So when x equals negative 3, what comes out of the function is when you replace the x with negative 3. So you have 3 times negative 3 minus 5, which is going to give you minus 9 minus 5, which is minus 14. Okay, so that is one of the values or elements of the range. The range is the output of the function. Okay, and when x equals 0, you'll have f0, which is 3 times 0 minus 5, which is negative 5. So that is the output of the function when the input is 0. So the domain, okay, value of 0 leads to the range value of minus 5. And then you have when x equals 2, then f of 2 is 3 times 2 minus 5, which is 6 minus 5, which is 1. So the last value for the range is 1. So you have 3 elements in the domain, which lead to 3 elements in the range. This is the range, which is the output, what comes out of the function when you put the values of the domain, which are the input values. Okay, so those are the x values and those are the y values, you could say, right? So that is the range of function f, minus 14, minus 5, and 1. Okay, the values that come out when you replace the x, okay, with these numbers here, right? Now, if you were asked, which we're not in this case, but just, just to make it complete, the question, if you were asked to draw a sketch of the graph of this, then you would just plot these values. You would have, when x is negative 3, I don't think that's very straight, is it? When x is negative 3, how did that happen? I don't know. When x is negative 3, let's say negative 3 is here, then y is negative 14. So all the way down here. Negative 3 and negative 14. Okay. Somewhere over here. This is just a sketch, just to give you an idea. So I would put here a dot representing that point. And then you have 0 and minus 5 should be somewhere over here, let's say. Then you have 2 and 1. So 2 and 1 somewhere over here. They'll be in a straight line. Okay. But you don't join them together with a straight line. When you are showing the domain and the range of these individual elements like this, then you will just have these 3 dots. When x is minus 3, y is negative 14. When x is 0, y is minus 5. When x is 2, y is 1. Okay, so these are the 3 points, okay, which are represented as, you can say minus 3, minus 14, and 0, minus 5, and 2, 1. So the x value is the domain, and the y value is the range of the function. Okay, we don't join them together. If for example, if the domain of the function was x is between minus 3 and 2, if this was a question, the domain is between minus 3 and 2, then the range would therefore be also, basically you'd have to include everything between minus 3 and 2. So you'd have to join these two lines together, or these 3 points together, and your range would therefore be all the values between 1 to minus 14. So the range would be y values from negative 14 up to 1. Okay, that would be the range if the question, they gave the domain in this format here. Okay, that means you'd have all the values, and that's why you draw the line. Okay, but this question is not like that. This question does not have this. Okay, because it doesn't have this, then that line is not going to be there, and you only have these individual 3 points. So you don't join them together if you're asked to draw a diagram. Right, we haven't really had any questions yet for, this is in the specific paper we see this, so I'm not sure how far or how deep they will go into this topic. It's not that it's not like that kind of detailed in the syllabus, so that's why I'm just going into a bit more detail maybe than necessary, but just better to be safe than sorry. So that's the answer to question number 4. So it's a bit of an introduction to you to the concept of domain and range, which is something new in this syllabus. Okay, so other questions from this paper you'll find in the playlist, which will appear in this section of the screen at the end of this video. In this section of the screen at the end of the video, you'll see questions dealing with functions. Okay, and I'll make a separate playlist for questions dealing with functions and domain and range, as this is something new. So anytime we see questions coming on that, I'll put them in the playlist over there, and you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on the link at the top here. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.